second to go for the win. He got it. The Cougars win it. Number one remains number one. Cougars reset. Jackson again finds it. And the Houston Cougars go from the first four out to the Sweet 16.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby.
Yes! Welcome to the Scott Holm Podcast, March Madness Instant React Edition, Bobby. It's been pretty cool doing these for the last 6-7 years. I mean, we didn't do one in 2020, where going into the day, U of H is firmly in the right side of the ball. I think I did a tweet about this a couple months ago. Just like, it's really cool that in the process of U of H becoming one of the best basketball programs in the country, we completely skipped over the be on the bubble at any point. Because even the 2020 year where we didn't actually find out a bracket, like no one was saying that U of H team was anywhere near the bubble. Like we just completely skipped the stress in mid-March about whether or not I'm going to see my team on the screen stage of program building. And frankly, don't mind it, Bobby. We are mere minutes after the reveal of the men's basketball bracket. What are your early thoughts on U of H and where we are in the tournament, and just how you doing generally, friend?
Yeah, man, I'm good. It's been a long weekend of watching Cougar sports, but a good one nonetheless, even though yesterday didn't go exactly how we wanted it to, but we also expect it, not that we expected it, but the disappointment wasn't as bad as maybe past years or something like that. Super excited where the Cougs are. The South region hosted here in Dallas. Just trying to calculate exactly how much money I'm going to spend to go see us play if we are lucky enough to make it that far. So really excited about some of these matchups, potential matchups. So let's hop to it. I'll let you go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, we found out the Cougs would be, as expected, in the South region of the NCAA tournament bracket. And despite being number 2 overall seed, we'll be opening up with a Longwood team that I think can feel kind of unfairly cast as a 16 seed. I think they probably have more of a resume of a 15 seed. I think frankly this should be St. Peter's here, and Longwood should be in one of the 15-2 spots. Really interesting opponent. Really interesting backstory in their coach, Griff Aldrich. I'll kind of lead with that. He has led them to the tournament 2 of the last 3 years, though they haven't been a D1 program super long. So saying Griff Aldrich has led them to their only 2 Division I NCAA tournament appearances is kind of deceptive to the fact that I think it's been less than 20 years since they made the move up to D1. But he played small college basketball in that kind of part of the world, Virginia, but not like Northern Virginia. I think won a D3 national title, was briefly an assistant coach, then went on to law school, lived a good chunk of this century in Houston. He was a law partner at Vincent and Elkins, and while he was, I think he worked in private equity too. Like just think of all the things that someone from a rich private school in the Mid Atlantic would be doing in Houston, and Griff Aldrich was probably doing it. No knock on
oil and gas.
Oil and gas lawyer. That's literally what oil and gas lawyer. But not knocking what this man did professionally, but also as a guy who's an accomplished basketball player, was an AAU coach, Coach DeAndre Jordan in AAU, and kind of decided around, I think it was 2016, that he wanted to get back into coaching, that he loved basketball and still wanted to do that. He was the director of basketball ops for Ryan Odom at UMBC, was on staff at UMBC when they had their big upset at Virginia, and has been the coach here at Longwood the past several years, including 2 NCAA tournament appearances. So I think really impressive. I've seen his name at least peripherally connected to the Rice opening because of his extensive time in Houston, because of his, I think pretty accomplished last several years coaching at Longwood, who, I think you have to clear a certain bar as a team to beat this U of H team, or to hope to beat this U of H team, to craft the upset. You have to clear a certain bar, Bobby, I think, in terms of being able to put the ball in the basket. I think you have to be some degree of good to very good, at least, at doing that, to consider doing that. I mean, you look at the teams that have beaten U of H this year: Iowa State 2 times, TCU, and Kansas, all, at least at the time of the matchup. I think Kansas has kind of fallen off a cliff with their health problems. You have to be fairly good at putting the ball in the basket, and that just has not been this Longwood team. They're 254th in the country in 2-point field goal, 156th, which is kind of like right in the middle of the road. Not great, not bad in 3-point, but they do 2 things that sort of concern me here. They're great at getting offensive boards. They're top 15 in the country in offensive rebound percentage, and they're great at getting the free throw line, Bobby. And we know, one, this is a Cougar team that will foul a decent amount. They play a physical brand of basketball. It's just been kind of a through line from Sampson's first tournament team to president is that this team's going to play a physical enough brand of basketball that you're going to see your opponent probably have a few more free throws at the very least, or a few more, or a few less fouls on them over the course of the game. And Longwood is quite good at doing that. So those are kind of my early thoughts. Do I think that U of H should expect an upset here? No, I don't think so. I mean, on the other side, Longwood against the schedule, mostly teams of Longwood Station have really struggled. I mean, they've really, I think you have to, again, not that U of H can't possibly lose this basketball game, because anything can happen when they tip the ball and play 40 minutes in the court of basketball. But I think where I start to have any kind of stress looking at the matchups and thinking, okay, like, is there a way that U of H could be going home in the first weekend of this tournament? I think it arrives the game afterwards, the potential of Nebraska or A&M, with all due respect to the Longwood Lancers. So, I mean, again, they played Dayton, close at Dayton. Dayton's a good team. Dayton was a team comfortably in the field of 68. The Cougars faced Dayton head-to-head in late November, so I respect that. But, I mean, like a lot of the 15-16 seed kind of teams, Longwood hasn't seen anyone of U of H's caliber. Dayton is the closest thing to it. And credit to them, they knocked off High Point, who's the regular season champion, the team that was very much expected to run through the Big South and get their auto bid. So didn't get the easy road in their conference to get there, but I feel like the Cougs should comfortably expect to win this opening one against the Lancers, Bobby.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think as well. You kind of look at their statistics. They got Waylon Napper, who is averaging
some great names, by the way. That
is a great name. I think it may be Wallen Napper, but I'm going with Waylon Napper. Just under 15 points a game. To your point, you see them on if you see them on the schedule in the regular season, you may not preview it as deep as we're going into, but they call it madness for a reason. I'm not saying that this is a slam dunk win, but 16 versus ones have only happened once, so it's not something you see
twice. Remember Fairleigh Dickinson last year.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. That is correct. So we've seen it twice. You kind of look at the Big South standings. They finished 5th. Not to like completely dismiss this game, but I don't see the Cougs struggling too much with a team that finishes 5th in the Big South. And there's a reason why this is a 116 matchup. A lot of times when I look at teams that are going to beat U of H, I look for big men who can pass the ball, who can shoot pretty well, things like that. Don't see that with Longwood. Their big man is 6'6", so Michael Christmas. He is a 6'6" senior, so anytime you have seniors, that's always a little concerning, because they play a little bit smarter. But we got a 6'7" senior who is going to match up pretty well with that. So, and hopefully Wani is completely healthy. So that's usually what I look for when I see an upset or a tough game for the Cougs, is big men who can pass and who can score as well. So Michael Christmas being their second leading scorer might give me a little pause, but 11.5 points a game in the Big South is a little bit different than playing the Big 12 regular season champion.
Yeah, I think the only individual guy had Simone Zapala, 7-foot big man there. He's top 80 in the country in offensive and defensive rebounding, like pretty good efficiency numbers scoring the basketball. But I mean, this won't be the Cougs' first time going against us. Won't be the Cougs' first time with like theoretically a height difference. I think we saw a number of teams in Big 12 play with size and skill potential advantages down low that couldn't take advantage of because the Cougs are so good in so many areas. And also, I don't think height is going to trip the Cougars up, at least in this one. Like, who knows? Yeah. Maybe there's a future matchup in this tournament, but I don't see it here. Don't see it with the Lancers. Again, hopefully I'm not giving the good folks in. I looked this up, Bobby. Farmersville, Virginia, or okay. my partner who lived in that part of Virginia for kind of equivalent to when you moved to Waco, like his high school years. Said I asked, I was like, was that right by you? He was like, yeah, and it was just. And he was like, I got really good custard there one time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I mention it on the podcast here in about 20 minutes.
Shout out to Farmersville Custard.
Shout out to whatever custard them place that my partner couldn't remember the name of in Farmersville, Virginia, home of the Longwood Lancers. But
Longwood Lancers.
Bobby, what do you want to talk about next? I was like, well, we're gonna choose our adventure. Do you want to talk about the rest of the bracket first, or the rest of the Cougs side of the bracket, or do you want to talk about the potential the potential following matchup if the Cougs can outlast the Lancers.
Let's talk potential matchup, and then we'll talk the entire South region, and then we can kind of jump around for any fun things that we may run into. How's that sound?
Perfect. I was gonna say, what are your early thoughts? I mean, I know we've seen the Aggies before, so what are your early thoughts on the Aggies and the Cornhuskers, the 8-9 matchup facing the Cougs in the bracket?
It's not a perfect thing to equate to. It's not 100% infallible, but KenPom has these two teams. Nebraska's KenPom 28, A&M's KenPom 44. So kind of close, but if you're basing it just off KenPom, you might want to see the Aggies again. Nebraska's played some pretty good games and have some good wins in what they just did in the Big Ten tournament, making it to the finals. Always impressive. Making it to the finals of the Big Ten tournament. There's something to be said for that. Win versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a good team this year. They beat Purdue, right? They granted that was at home and everything, but beating Purdue by 16, hard to argue against that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so that's a dangerous team that can come in and really do and scare you a little bit. Nebraska, that would be my concern. Also, if you got to play the Aggies, I'm never thrilled with playing the Aggies in a sport that we're better than them at, just because they're going to look, it will become just like when we play Texas in football. It's kind of our Super Bowl. We can admit that right here on this pod. We can admit, like, if we had this discussion on the pod where if we would have won if we went 4-8, but we got a win versus Texas, we'd be happy with that. A&M's going to kind of come into this game like that. They're ready to knock us off. Kind of, obviously they look at us as little brother, kind of take little brother down a peg. And you saw it when we played them earlier this year. We came away with the win, but they just were never down and out. And they very rarely do the Aggies look at themselves as underdogs in many things. This is something where they would be an underdog.
No doubt. I think what scares me more about Nebraska, even though neither team would I like lock and stamp a win against tonight.
Yeah.
But I mean, just that kind of the opposite I talked about Longwood, Nebraska. Nebraska's a good shooting team. Like, I feel like,
Yep.
not an elite shooting team, but just good across the board. And it doesn't turn the ball over that much. I mean, they're not elite at that. Again, they're just not bad in all the areas where you need to be not bad offensively to face the Cougs. Granted, I think one big weakness is they don't force a lot of turnovers defensively. They're not going to be that disruptive. And I think with the Cougs' very veteran guard group, that I think that's something to watch there. And they're not great they're both not great at preventing opponents from grabbing offensive boards. They're not great at grabbing offensive boards themselves, which I feel like is an important area against this U of H team that you're going to have to be at least decent there, at least holding serve. And that I see that as potentially an area the U of H could exploit if in fact they get Nebraska. I feel like you almost got A&M's best punch the last time these teams played. Wade Taylor, who's a great scoring guard, maybe not a great efficient shooter, just went off against the Cougars, if you'll remember. I mean, pretty much single-handedly kept them in that game. Yeah, at the Toyota Center when these teams played first, because A&M is a bad shooting team. And again, you caveat all that with A&M. A&M plays a tougher schedule than, not to keep bagging on these guys, Longwood. So that's a product of playing some good defenses. They play a pretty respectable non-conference schedule too. So that's part of the equation. But you just my thing with A&M is, can they do it twice? Like, can you have two just out of body performances? I mean, maybe you do. Maybe they see, a lot of teams when they face, we've seen ourselves face the level of team that U of H is now, you get an extraordinary effort. You get, above and beyond what they might have done. And, because A&M has some real clunker losses. Like, I think they deserve to be in the field of 68. I don't think that's that controversial, as much as I'm loath to say anything nice about the Aggies, Bobby. But, I mean, losing to Vanderbilt, losing to Arkansas, this year's version of Arkansas, love you, Tremont Mark, losing to Ole Miss at home, like some bad losses.
Yep.
Like, really had to rescue themselves with, some I think high points in there, beating Kentucky, beating Tennessee, beating Florida, and then beating Kentucky again in the SEC tournament. I think got them just on the right side of the bubble. And they kind of remind me the last year's Auburn team that we saw in the round of 32, just an obviously flawed SEC team, but a team with a lot of talent and a team that will probably play up to the moment of playing against a 1 seed like the Cougs, which Auburn did last year. Auburn really almost ran us off the court in that first 20 minutes last year before the Cougs, with some, I think, big help from Teron Mark, came back and ended up winning that game. So, yeah, I think I would rather see the Aggies in that spot just because I think Nebraska does more stuff offensively that I think scares you, and I think clears a lot of the bars that you need to clear to potentially be able to beat this U of H team. I mean, made the Big Ten semis, ultimately losing to the eventual champion Illinois. I think firmly proved that they belong to be. Fred Hoiberg, who was longtime Iowa State coach, if you'll recall, had a stint in between the Chicago Bulls. Finally got this team back in the tournament. Bobby, I didn't actually know this until the bracket reveal in the last hour or so. I didn't know they'd never won a tournament game. Like, I know Nebraska doesn't have a lot of basketball history, like, right, as evidenced by the fact that U of H has more Big 12 regular season men's basketball titles than Nebraska did in 17-ish years of being in the league. That kind of tells you a story right there. But I didn't know they had never won a tournament game, so I think they'll be very hungry for that one. I think we'll see the Huskers in round 2 if I had to predict it. I would rather see the Aggies, but I think we'll see the Huskers.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those matchups with when it comes to the matchup versus U of H, you're going to have a team that you think is probably a better basketball team playing basketball, right? Then I think that's Nebraska versus A&M. That will be coming in on motivation and excitement to play the local team, to play the higher ranked local team that is, kind of getting their come up, and you have a chance to take them down a peg. So it's kind of, would you rather play the better basketball team, or would you rather play the still decent basketball team that's going to play fired up? Yeah. Not that Nebraska's not going to play fired up. It's the NCAA tournament, but yeah, it will just be a little bit different. A&M, again, like I said, doesn't often have that ability to go in and say, these guys didn't recruit you, these guys, kind of deal, where everyone else does that against them in just about every other sport where you can go for this disrespect factor. A&M may have that. So you just kind of, would you rather play the better basketball team or the team that's just going to come in with a lot of motivation to knock you off? No doubt. Yeah. You want to talk about our side of the bracket? Yeah, let's talk our side of the bracket. What stands out to you, bud? We talked about this off air a little bit. We had to stop ourselves before we podcasted too much off air. But James Madison, there's always inevitably a really scary 11 or 12 seed any side bracket you look at. But man, James Madison is a scary 12 seed. Like because there are a number of teams where you might have heard earlier I was talking about, well, has Longwood played very many teams of UH's caliber this year? I don't like to use that necessarily to go after mid majors, but James Madison not only ran roughshod over a good, I think upper end of the mid-major league in the Sun Belt. They ran through that league, but also they beat Michigan State in the opener. They challenged themselves with their non-conference play. I think really just checked all the boxes of the kind of team that I think you just absolutely hate. The 5-12 matchup is one that's just notorious for upsets, notorious for the higher seeded team not doing so hot. And yeah, I think having a team and outside of Michigan State win, maybe not necessarily a whole bunch of other ones, but I mean, one data point against another tournament team on their court, that's pretty damn good. I would not want to be right now in the position that Wisconsin's in, which, I mean, Wisconsin's playing hot right now. Wisconsin went to the finals of the Big Ten championship. No mean feat. Had kind of a lull in the middle of the season, but are now pretty good. But yeah, man, I'd be sweating bullets if I was Greg Gard right now. That is a tough round of 64 matchup. Yeah, that's one of those ones where you see these teams, right, and you see these 12 seeds, and this is one of those Sweet 16 games that the Cougs could have that you're like, oh, this is the 12 seed that makes it to the Elite Eight, just because every year there's that damn team that just kind of runs. That's a 10, 11, 12 seed that just kind of makes a run. And if you look at the 12, 13s, maybe the 10s and 11s, they're kind of the one that you look at and go, that's probably the best higher seed, lower seed, I guess. Yeah. That you see here. Maybe that McNeese team is the 12 seed, but as again, we were talking off air before we didn't want to podcast too much. That McNeese team hasn't played a ton of people. Whereas this James Madison team, to your point, they took on a Michigan State team, it went into overtime. So, it was a close game, but that's still a data point to your point. They beat a 9 seed. And this is back when we thought Michigan State was going to be a contender this year. So, and they got Michigan State fresh, all of that. So it's going to be interesting. That's a really interesting point here. That 12 seed, it's a scary 12 seed. Also, we did get a play-in game in our region.
Yeah.
The 10 seed is going to be a play-in game between
Boise and Colorado. Actually,
I
just saw Colorado a couple nights ago out here in Vegas. Very athletic team. They also have a chunky big man, Eddie Lampkin. Actually originally from the Houston. I don't know where he went to high school, but he's originally from the Houston area. Played at TCU, and I think this is like his super senior year at Colorado. And they have like a Kobe Williams, who's I think he's a one and done guy who's going to be at least a first round pick. I think they're pretty interesting too. They look very athletic. I was going to say, like, they were playing Utah, a pretty tall team who we saw. Utah ended up on the wrong side of the bubble, but we saw them early this season when I think they were playing their best basketball in November in the tournament in the Carolinas that we did. And Utah, I think, is the tallest team in Division I, and Colorado didn't in any way look intimidated by at least the amount of length the Utes were able to throw at them out here in Vegas. So pretty impressive team. I think you could talk me into them being, because there's inevitably a lot of tournaments, a play-in team that goes on a decent run. I remember Syracuse several years
because they kind of get hot. They just get hot.
Yeah, get hot, and they made the tournament finals out here and lost to Oregon, who ended up punching their ticket that way, which is understandable because I'm not going to try to ascribe every loss to being a motivation thing, but Colorado maybe closer to the bubble than they thought they were, but Colorado looked like they were pretty firmly in the right side of the bubble, and Oregon was in a win. You have to win this to get in the situation. So playing good basketball right now too. And
then just another team that the 3 seed, before I say Kentucky and talk about Kentucky, who they are, what they are, the disrespect from the CBS crew when they were unveiling this side of the bracket. I mean, they give us a little bit of a video. I don't even know if there was sound with it. And they're just like, hey, Houston's the 1 seed. Let's unveil the rest of the bracket. And you're like, okay. And then they kind of go down. Marquette got like a whole 30-second package. They clearly thought Marquette had a chance of being a 1 seed because it was a 1 seed kind of video package that they had. And then they go through and they unveil the bracket. One of the guys, I think it was Kellogg, goes, pencil Kentucky in for my Final Four. Okay, got it, bro. And then you kind of look at that and you're like, oh, that means they beat us. And then everyone just talked about Kentucky and how great they were going to be, and they're healthy and everything looks good. I don't know if they mentioned Houston except for the host at the end going, and they might have to play a good defense in Houston. And it's like, they might not have to play. They like a pretty good defense. We're historically one of the best defenses of all time. Like we're number 2 in the country in adjusted defense on KenPom right now. We're tied with Iowa State. That's because we had a couple of games late in the season when we're down to 7 guys. Like, we're a good defense. We're not a pretty good defense. We're an elite defense.
I don't want to give Clark Kellogg that much credit. It might have been like, pretty good. You might have been saying it sort of facetiously, like they're a very good team. But your larger point that they didn't spend very much time on a team that until again, a meaningless, and we can talk a little bit about this at the end, like a meaningless fucking 3rd game in 3 days lost to Iowa State, and I was like, the metrics don't like.
Where your bench is only 6 people at this point. Where you have your starters and one guy.
Your bench
because Wani was out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wani played some. But
but I mean, like,
not full health.
7 minutes.
You essentially had one of your 2 healthy big men is a redshirt freshman who hasn't played any meaningful minutes until the last couple weeks, and I fully on board with you on that one. Mentioned some of the other teams here, and again, Kentucky. I will say Kentucky is a really good offensive team, like number 1 3-point shooting team in the country. They play at tempo. They make their shots. Like they could pose matchup problems for the Cougars. We'll fully admit that. I'm not trying to say Kentucky at 3 seed's a bad team, but like also they had some pretty bad defensive clunkers. There's a reason why they had this incredible offense and lost 9 games between the regular season and the conference postseason. Like,
yep.
I think they kind of really, I mean, you don't have much time to really like dive in on a team necessarily in the kind of format that the selection show is. But for as much as they talked about him, like you could have at least mentioned like, oh yeah, incredible offense, dog shit defense in a lot of games against, the better teams that they faced, or the teams with a pulse. Like that's again, that's why they're a 3 seed and not like weren't ever in serious consideration for 1. And also just gonna point out, like past performance doesn't equal future performance, but this is a team that hasn't been past the first weekend of the tournament since 2019. Like, right. I remember because our season ended to the last team that went past the first weekend, the Kentucky team with PJ Washington.
Yeah.
So Duke in this bracket as well, another, I would say, a better defensive team than Kentucky, but probably also doesn't have the staggering heights of Kentucky's, peaks offensively. Also, just real piece of work. Since I've done enough of my hard cursing this episode here at the top, I've met my quota there. Real piece of work, Kyle Filipowski, who had a career-ending injury, Bobby, after Wake Forest rushed the court, and then was like healthy enough to be back out there shortly after against UNC and
like windmill dunked.
Yeah, exactly. Just like
windmill dunked and hasn't looked a step slower at all.
Exactly. Like accidentally ran into someone and fell down.
And then he tried to court storming. And then he tried to trip a player.
UNC player.
Like he's the new Dookie.
Good to see. The Duke. Ability for college basketball fandom to unite around hating Duke. Didn't go away when that rat Krzyzewski retired.
Ooh, hot take on Krzyzewski. I'm here for it.
Not a fan.
All right.
Marquette's really good too. I don't want to feel like I'm disrespecting. I don't want to do to Marquette like the CBS
the selection show did to us. That's fair enough.
Marquette's really good. I don't think they had a case for a 1 seed, but the Big East was kind of top heavy this year. But that top was absolutely like Marquette was included in there. Very, very good team. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they end up going to the Final Four, and would hate it to be our expense. But like it's a good team. I mean, there's not really any bad 2 seeds out there. That's the great thing about the tournament. It's just like you're not gonna maybe outside the first round really see an opponent where you're like, oh yeah, we overmatched them badly. Like that's not the nature of the beast.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. You want to talk bubble? You want to talk rest of the tournament and just kind of riff on what we're seeing here and some of your thoughts on the tournament?
Yeah. Real quick bubble thought. I think I'm not a original thought here, but I think it's kind of crummy. Indiana State's not in the field of 68.
So bad. Highest net ever. Why are you making a metric and then saying, oh,
it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Good question, Bobby. Because it's like, well, and they made this big thing about, non-conference strength of schedule and all that stuff. And I don't know if it was specifically used as a cudgel against Indiana State, but I mean, who's going to, like, I mean, we know this as U of H fans. We've been in kind of similar-ish positions. Like if you're a really good program outside of a major conference, you're going to find a lot of doors closed to you in terms of scale. Like I'm sure Indiana State 6-7 years ago, before Josh Schertz comes in there, doesn't have any problem getting body bag games against better teams in their region, maybe other parts of the country too. Probably, but like have now shown to be a decent team. And I don't know. I feel like the tournament would be benefited more from Indiana State, a team that I think could make a deep run and would be certainly an exciting basketball team to add kind of the tapestry versus Virginia. Like, God, we have to, like, I realize Virginia, bad style of basketball and everything. Like until this year, they had comfortably had a tournament at large resume to some degree for most of the past decade. Like we're going to voluntarily subject ourselves to the shittiest Virginia team of the last 11 years. Like I know you have the ability to jump around games. That's the juxtaposition that really like Virginia's in, Indiana State is not. Like I know they had a good ACC record, but the ACC wasn't any good this year. Like
yep.
Yeah.
That's
the one that kills me. It's a tough year for the bubble. I grew up. There's a lot of bids. It was a tough year for the bubble. It was a tough year to be a bubble team there. Not to give the committee too much credit. Like, Indiana State probably would have gotten in and with their resume a number of years, but that I don't know. I still feel like good as the bubble was, all the external factors, bid stealers out there and what have you, I think Indiana State should have been in the field, and that's the thing I think that really frustrates me the most about this tournament selection.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had down here. Let me ask you about this. Baylor as a 3 seed. What do you think of that? Feels a bit high.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would have if you had said just gut reaction. What seed do you think? I would have been like 3 or 4, probably 4 first.
Yeah. See, that's kind of where I was too. Iowa State in at a 2 seed. I'll be honest. I didn't see them jumping to 1 after that game yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Not that they aren't worthy of it, and they beat us twice, right? In what was essentially a second road game for us. They kicked our teeth in.
Yeah.
And really both times we played them not at Fertitta, they dominated us.
I mean, the first game in Ames was like the first game in Ames. If Milan Momcilovic doesn't hit a crazy shot, like I'm not saying we for sure win it, but
that's fair. That's fair.
That rims out. We could win that one.
I think that game just feels like we got stomped because you came out slow. You did all that.
They punched us in the mouth at the beginning. Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I didn't really see them as the one. I heard the argument, but if you kind of look, UConn was the number 1 overall seed. If Iowa State's their number 2, then Iowa State wasn't even 5th.
Which is insane.
Yeah, they're 6th, maybe 7th. Maybe you have Marquette as the 5th seed, or Tennessee.
Oh man, Tennessee.
Yeah, right. So just kind of interesting.
Arizona getting a 2.
Yeah,
Arizona getting a 2.
Arizona getting a 2
like,
is
and getting to be in LA, which is like it is not difficult for them to do like they always do and bring like lots and lots of fans there.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a little bit of an advantage over UNR or Dayton. UNR, I know you were excited.
I appreciate using the UNR, calling University of Nevada Reno by its proper name, and not allowing them to claim the entirety of the beautiful Silver State as their own. Thank you.
I'll be honest. Every time you send UNR in a text, I'm always like, "What is he?" Oh, Nevada Reno. Okay, got it. It happens every single time, so I'm on board with that. Texas getting in as a 7 seed. Feels okay. Maybe a little, little high for their seed. Kansas at a 4. You could maybe make an argument for them at a 3, but
I mean, I feel like the season resume. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like season resume. Yeah, it's a 3 or 4, and you should judge someone on their season resume. So like, I don't take a big issue with it, but that's not right now. That's not a 4 seed. And I think I texted you right after they announced it. Like, I don't know if they're going to lose to Samford, but they're going to have a hard time. They weren't a deep team before McCullough and Dickinson both had their various ailments, and just like Stanford's a very high tempo team. They're gonna really harass the Jayhawks. Like that's not a fun 4-13 matchup, and a lot of 4-13s, by nature just are not fun. But like Samford in particular, like they're one of the fastest playing teams in the country. That's going to be rough when you have no bench and and they not just playing your best basketball right now. Yeah,
KU minus 8.5 in that game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Peruse the books here once we get done recording like that. Like I don't know if I wouldn't take, and again, usual caveats that nothing I say here should be construed as anything like betting advice. And I wouldn't take them straight up, but I would think strongly about that 8.5. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Just a outside of Indiana State, I don't know if I feel too bad for teams on the bubble that missed it. It was a lot of bid stealers. I don't know who has a good case, but really when it comes down to team 69, 70, 68, you run through everything. It kind of is what it is. And that's why I hate the idea of expanding the tournament. Not that I want to dive into this too much, but just like they're always like, well, good teams could come in. And it's like, I mean, you had 68 slots.
Yeah.
It's at some point, there's always going to be someone left off, right? Yep. If we expand it to 96, there's going to be team 97, 98, 99. And we're not suddenly going to be like, oh, come on, nope. There's always going to be teams left out. That's the nature of having a tournament that isn't just conference champions.
Yeah, exactly. No, I fully agree on that. And again, I don't think anyone other than Indiana State really has a big case. Real quick, like related to this.
Yeah,
aside,
let's go.
Like the NIT, Bobby, or the people that run the NIT played themselves so bad Like, because they've made this big thing at the start of the season. They're like, well, we're no longer accepting, the smaller conference teams. Like, to use the example of opponent we just talked about, Longwood, they weren't their conference's regular season champions. So previously, High Point, who had a really good season, I think they only lost like 1 or 2 conference games, would have got an NIT game. And also, as much as we joke about, it's not the goal to be the NIT, like for High Point, that's a big deal. Like, that gives them like, hey, like,
I remember when the CBI was a big deal for us and we played Vandy.
Honestly, I thought, I don't think it was the long-term goal, but like, it was a nice data point in Samson's second and third year here that we were good enough to be NIT caliber.
Yeah.
Like we were okay.
Well, I've had this conversation again when I would go to Baylor and you see their women's basketball and it's like NIT finalist, NIT winner, NCAA tournament appearance, and then it was NIT champion again, right? And you take that, not even a step back, but then it's NCAA tournament Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four national champion. So those are just steps that programs take, and it just gives you again another data point.
Yeah, and so the reason I bring this up is because a number of programs that normally would have been kind of the NIT headliners, which it gives me very high satisfaction to say this, Bobby, Memphis, St. John's, Ole Miss have been emphatically like, we're not taking the NIT appearance. Like, we do not want to go to this.
Yeah, that's
like the teams that like obviously weren't maybe NCAA tournament caliber, but were like the big name teams like that would be in the field. Like that, like it just, I don't know the dollars and cents behind like, hey, like we couldn't keep it going in this model or something like that. But I think whoever decided like that this was okay, well, this is a viable path forward, didn't think about that. These number of these teams just be like, no, actually, it's more important to us to be like recruiting right now than
especially with didn't they say the portal opens up?
Yep, tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's just, but I totally get what you're saying, and the NIT is actually a fun tournament to watch.
It is.
And here's the other thing: if you win it, you're not. People always joke you're the 69th best basketball team. If you win the NIT, you're probably a top 25 team.
Yeah, I hate to say something nice about this program, but like it did actually, I think, really help Memphis. That they I think they won the 21 NIT.
Yeah. And
then I think not coincidentally, like went to the next 2 seasons were an at-large level NCAA tournament team afterwards. Like,
but what happened to him this year?
Bobby didn't want this. Really fun. You've probably seen me retweet it a few times. Like Penny Hardaway, like in late October, was just like, yeah, we know our season's basically the non-conference schedule. Like it just basically just saying like, yeah, like we know it doesn't matter what we do against AC competition. We have to, and like. And then just took all these just awful, just inexcusable L's in conference play. Just couldn't happen to a better program. Really happy.
Yeah, really happy with that one.
What our old friends are doing there.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
No, you
I was just gonna say it's the best time of the year, bud, and I'm looking forward to it. So, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, you want to just end it here? Like, we thought about having Big 12 tournament thoughts, and just like, I'm glad we beat Texas Tech a second time. Glad we beat TC. We beat TC after losing the one regular season head-to-head. Wish the Iowa State would have been somewhat closer. And frankly, I feel like, so I'll put myself, I texted you, we were down 19-13. You correctly said, yeah, we're not playing our best basketball right now. It's like, I don't care if we're down 19-0. And the universe was like, all right, bet. And it's just like, you are going to have to half watch, while putting up a shelf for a projector. You and your team just get your teeth kicked in just against Iowa State.
Just house. Yeah. So I'm watching the game, and my wife's a huge Boston Bruins fan. Long story, I don't want to explain it here, but she's a huge Bruins fan, and she's a Houston Cougar because I married up, and so I got a Houston Cougar. That was a smart move of me, so I don't have any conflicts like one host of this will going forward. So, anyways. I'm watching the game, and it gets to like 2 minutes into the second half. We're down like 16 or something around that time. And I just look at her, and she's in her room where she quilts and stuff. And she's in there, and she's watching it on a smaller TV. And I'm like, you want the TV out here? I'm going to go throw it on real quick and, go mess around on the computer or something. I don't know.
Smart move.
Yeah. But are we really going to go in and analyze that game? Sorry guys, we're probably not.
No, they beat us by a lot of points, and we were really, really clearly not at 100% health. And that, which isn't to say Iowa State. And I'm, in a way, like, don't get me wrong, as a Houston Cougar fan, I want the Cougs to win every available championship in every sport, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. I think it is, and I will also say, we absolutely got the more meaningful one. I'm sorry. Like, cool that you won this tournament. That's a quasi home tournament for you. Very awesome. Really glad that your fans don't have enough going on in their lives that they can go to the Power and Light District and just chill and watch basketball outside of an arena. Great. Bully for you. We won the title that means more. But I feel like Iowa State had such a good season that they deserve some hardware. Like, they deserve some Big 12 hardware. They just deserve some recognition that they were far and away, along with U of H, I think, clear of what was a very, very good league. That they were among they were the upper echelon. That U of H and Iowa State should be standing on a mountaintop above the rest of the league, because that's how much those two teams outplayed, I think, the competition. So I'm happy in that sense that they won that, and they won their quasi home tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for the clones, I guess.
I mean, again, I gotta give them credit. Like, I think there would obviously be more U of H fans if it was in like Dallas or Fort Worth.
Right.
But there wouldn't be that level of U of H fans. There wouldn't be that level of Baylor fans. There wouldn't be that level of TCU fans. It'd be a good crowd. Like, it would be a good crowd. Don't get me wrong. There'd be a lot of Cougs. There'd be a lot of Baylor fans. There'd be a lot of TCU fans. But there wouldn't be the level that Iowa State brought and brings on an annual basis.
And here's the other thing. I've seen us play in conference championship games. Granted, not as exciting as a Big 12 championship game, but I've seen us play in conference championship games in this city. And we bring it, but we did not bring it like Iowa State did. You're absolutely right.
Bingo. All right, that's our show. Don't forget, please support our friends at Charlie Hustle, charliehustle.com, promo code SHP15. Get yourself some fantastic Cougar gear, including a Cougar quarter zip. Bobby, I know you're a golfer, quarter zip guy.
Can't wait,
so
buddy.
You're very excited about that one, I know. And of course, the fantastic Cougar jacket that Charlie Hustle just released as well. Of course, don't forget to download Autograph at the Android or Apple store and use our promo code SHPAWD, SHPod, and follow your Cougars there, and also get yourself in line for some really awesome prizes they'll be dropping for March Madness as well. That's it. Please follow us on the site formerly known as Twitter, that we still call Twitter anyway, at SHPAWDcast, podcast.bsky.social, the Facebook that we check once every few months. You can get in touch with us there, but we probably won't see it until about mid-June. Bobby, that's it. What do we always say here at the end?
Go Cougs.
Go Coogs.
Vamos los Cougs.
Go Coogs.
Go Coogs.
All right. Go Cougs. Let's go.